Episode number 291, Hope Through Digital Media with Nathan Spicer. Let's do it.
This is the definitive podcast for helping you plan, create, and execute dynamic worship experiences at your church. Useful, practical content in the areas of production, worship, communications, first impressions, and more. This is Making Sunday Happen.
Hey guys, this is the Making Sunday Happen podcast. Thanks so much for being here. This weekend is Easter, and if you need some last-minute Easter media, we've got you covered. From full sermon kits to countdowns, lyric media, worship backgrounds, title graphics, and more. Just go to 1230.media/Easter to pick up some ready-made content for your church. That's 1230.media/Easter. You can use the code Easter21. That's Easter, then 21 to take $5 off anything in our ready-made library. That's Easter 21 is in 2021. Easter 21 for $5 off anything you want from our library. And if you're paying attention, a lot of stuff is under $5, so you can completely take that stuff for free. So Easter 21 for $5 off anything in our library. Hope that blesses you guys a little bit this week. I know how hard you are working to make Easter happen this year. Sometimes this year, some of you are working double because you're preparing both the physical environment and the online worship experience as well that you might not have done last year or in years past. So I know the hard work that you're doing now the hours that you're putting in. So way to go. All right, this week on the show, I'm going to be talking with Nathan Spicer from CBD Global. CB stands for Christian Vision. CBD Global. We're going to talk about the topic of hope through digital media. Now, CV serves thousands of churches around the world with resources for pastors, church planners, and leaders. We'll talk about the shift in churches and how the churches that they are serving are using digital media to reach people with the gospel. Now, I love this interview with Nathan because you're going to get a taste of what churches are doing around the globe, not just here in the United States. So a lot of times we focus on, well, what is this church doing? What is that church doing in the U.S.? And we are lacking some context internationally. So this interview with Nathan will give you a glimpse of what's going on in the world, in other countries with the churches that they serve. Okay, so that is coming up a little bit later in the podcast. First, let's check the mailbag. Here we go. For the mailbag this week and over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be answering questions that we get about ready-made media content and how to use ready-made content at your church. All right. This week, let's talk about countdowns. Okay. So here are a few tips about countdowns. Don't use countdowns that are more than 5 minutes in length. You can use that time to communicate valuable information to your congregation. If it's a must, like you have to do a 15-minute countdown for some reason, put the counter in the bottom corner. Don't make it, full screen 15 minutes. People kind of tune that out a little bit unless you're in a very specific situation. So you might, play a full 15-minute video and then at the 5-minute mark, bring either the counter in the corner or bring that full screen. But I would kind of keep your countdowns to around 5 minutes or less, okay? Another tip that I see is make sure that you communicate with your team when that countdown needs to drop. So, for instance, I've seen in some churches where they'll start the 5-minute countdown and then a minute left, it will jump to 3 minutes, okay? And you know what's happening. Pastor's not ready to take the stage. The band's still working on something, so they call over to the media guy and say, hey, give us another 2 minutes. We're not ready. Well, then hold the 5-minute countdown until you are ready for 5 minutes and then you're out on stage, okay? It looks very bad when you're sitting in the audience and all of a sudden the countdown jumps. There's a really bad music cut in the live environment. It feels bad. It feels awkward. and I'm going to suggest that you don't do that, okay? So communicate with your team. You can even call back and say, okay, we're 5 minutes, we're done with our thing. We're 5 minutes, give us a minute, and then drop the 5-minute countdown, we'll be ready. Like, I would rather you delay your service than, do a hard cut in the middle of your countdown. It just looks bad, okay? Another tip for you is your countdown should be series branded. Okay, so if you're doing a series on Jonah or Colossians, Revelation, your countdown needs to match your bumper, needs to match your motion backgrounds that you put your sermon notes on. Okay, so those three things especially, and a few other things need to be series branded, but your countdown needs to be series branded. All right, next tip is think through this time strategically. So it doesn't just have to be a straight countdown on screen with countdown numbers. You can use it to share valuable information or start stirring interest in the topic or the message of the day. So let me give you some ideas here to enhance your countdown timer videos. You can have trivia on your screen. So if you're doing a series on the Apostle Paul, you can have trivia questions in your countdown all about Paul. Okay? You don't want to steal the thunder of your message. That's not what I'm suggesting. But you can kind of prime the pump of your message and get people kind of thinking about what you're going to talk about later in the service. Okay, another idea is to do stats or did you know? That's kind of a maybe similar content than a trivia. But if you're talking about social media or communication in your message, you can do stat or video or whatever. You can use stats in your countdown. You can share biblical stats. Here's we're talking about Jonah in our message today. Here's some stats on the city of Nineveh, that sort of thing. Okay, so some stats or did you know? You can use quotes in your countdown. You can use talking head moments. So you can have your pastor, and cameras are so great now, guys, that you can use your iPhone and your pastor or another staff member can record a video, and you can put that video on screen and use ProPresenter and put the countdown numbers in the corner if you want to. Or we have countdown packs that have alpha channels that you can come on top of a video, talking head video. My point is to use that 5-minute countdown strategically. So you can have different, text elements in your countdown. You can have talking head or video announcements or even promotional videos. Let's say you spent the money on a promotional video to be made. A countdown is a great way to repurpose that content. Let's say it's a youth camp promo or a men's conference promo. Your countdown is a perfect spot to reuse that promo to keep that content in front of people, okay? So don't just think numbers on screen. That's fine, you can do that, but you might have some other things that you can use that time more strategically and get information out to your congregation. All right. If you need help making countdowns for your church, let us know at 1230 Media. We'd love to help you create custom countdowns for your physical or your online worship experience. We'd be glad to help you do that. Or you can download countdowns from our site. We have a full library of already made countdowns that you can use. And a lot of our countdowns go with our series in a box. So that whole series branding idea, it matches the design, the look, the feel of a full sermon kit. So the countdown by itself is only $10 each, so we're trying to make things really affordable for you. These are all at 1230.media/countdowns, so you can check that out. You can also go there to get ideas for your own, okay? So 1230.media/countdowns. All right? Well, I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about that, and over the next few weeks, I'll talk with you more about tips for how to use ready-made media content in your worship experience, okay? So it's all about, what we're all about is helping you make Sunday happen. So how can I enhance and use the tools that I already have, use the flow of service that I already have to enhance the worship experience, okay? So that's what we're trying to do. If you have a question for our mailbag, something that you would like to know or know how to enhance your worship experience in some way, feel free to send it in. You can email me directly, carl@1230.media. That's Carl at the word 12, the word 30, all spelled out, .media. or you can find me on social media at Carl Barnhill. Feel free to tag me and send a question in. We get a lot of content, so please send it right in, and we'll just kind of get to it as the podcast goes along each week. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening to this training. And coming up, we'll have my interview with Nathan Spicer from CBD Global right after this.
The Church Online Guide is a comprehensive handbook for crafting your online worship experience. This 75-page guide will give you helpful tips and resources like ideas for your service flow, tips for your website, how to craft kids and student experiences, online giving, turning your live stream into an online campus of your church, and more. Pick up a copy of the book today and watch our free Church Online web series at 1230.media/churchonline, 1230.media/churchonline.
Hey guys, today I welcome the product manager at CV, which stands for Christian Vision. He'll tell you more about himself. Nathan, I'm so excited to have you. You are you're in Australia, right?
Yeah, that's right. On the east coast of Australia, on a place called the Sunshine Coast. So it sounds awesome, and it
awesome.
is.
Nathan Spicer in the house. So the accent is real. You're not faking this.
Well, I actually from the UK, so I moved over maybe 11 years ago to Australia. So I can, and I actually spent a bit of time in Africa as well. So I can kind of mix it up a little bit between accents. I just haven't quite got my US accent working just yet. But
there you go. We'll work.
It's a bit of a mix.
We're working on you. Awesome, man. Well, I'm so excited to have you on. Thank you so much for making the time. So tell us a little bit about your role at CV. Especially for those in the U.S. I know a lot of pastors and tech leaders and media folks at churches might know of you guys, but don't know what you do directly. So give us kind of a sense of who you guys are and what your role is.
Yeah, great. Well, firstly, thank you, Carl, for inviting me. It's a privilege to join with you today for this conversation. So CV is a global ministry that's been around actually since the 80s, born out of the UK and fully funded by a businessman in the UK who loves Jesus and has been incredibly successful in business, and but really has a heart for mission, and so really set up CV with a primary goal of reaching as many people with the gospel as we can. And over the years, that's transitioned many different media types, and because we are fully funded and I guess don't have donors or other things, we've been able to pivot really quickly to changing trends and opportunities with the mission at the core. And so over the years, we've been involved in radio, shortwave radio, we've been involved in television, and more recently, digital media as just a means of getting the message out. And we have a vision to reach 1 billion people with the message of Jesus. And we have offices all the way around the world. And including in the US, we have an office in Dallas and in Miami, actually. And some of the projects that have come out of CV are probably a little bit more popular or known than CV itself. But Christian Vision is the organization behind all of that. And so for me, I actually grew up in Africa, actually as a child, as my parents worked for Christian Vision, setting up one of those initial radio stations. And really, that's where God put a heart for mission in my heart. And then I went back to the UK, worked for IBM, got involved in tech, and then about 11 years ago, joined on staff into CV and really found that God, just his timing's perfect and really combined, I guess, what he put in my heart around mission, but then also combining that what was in my hand and skills I had in the digital space, and really found purpose of those two things coming together. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. So this podcast is all about making Sunday happen. So we're helping pastors, worship leaders, tech guys craft the experience for Sunday and bring in media content and other resources to help them craft Sunday. So you guys have, so kind of frame the conversation in that you guys have different departments, right? So there's CV Global and an outreach department and others. Give me the distinction between those various segments.
So So CB Global is the parent organization, and we have different projects that come out of that, but really focused around three key strategies. One of them is like direct evangelism work that we're doing ourselves, and that's using digital platforms and digital media to reach out to individuals who don't yet know Jesus. So that's focused using data around people that are unreached, and particularly going into those countries with digital means to introduce people to Jesus. Secondly, we have a project which is focused on mobilization, and that's helping Christians and churches to reach out to non-Christians in their community and provide tools and the means and the knowledge to be able to do that. And then the third area, which I'm currently most involved in, is how do we just resource the church? How do we actually give away what we produce and what we have in our hands, both in knowledge and in digital assets, so others can basically just take that and use it, and hopefully the message of Jesus can go far further than we ever can. And so we're producing a lot of digital media for that objective 1 and 2. And so we just basically package that up and give it away for free, no strings attached. And because our vision's so large, we recognize that partnership and working with others and that the church is God's plan. And we just want to play our part in this great commission as well. So the different projects sit under each one of those. So people may have heard of things like CV Outreach, which is a US-based project. There's projects called Yes He Is, which is around mobilizing Christians to share their faith. CVC La Voz is a radio station based out of Miami into all of Latin America. So there's all these projects that sit, but they all sit in one of these three objectives: direct evangelism, mobilization, or equipping and resourcing the church.
Awesome. And you guys serve thousands of churches with your resources. Obviously, the last year, everybody's been affected by the pandemic. So tell me, how have the churches that you guys serve been most affected over the last year? And then where are they now?
Yeah, great. I mean, firstly, we saw a transition overnight to kind of digital means of engaging people with the gospel. And I think the church did incredibly well. I mean, the church pivoted in a moment because there was suddenly a great need, and people had to quickly adjust their methods and be agile in that. And I think churches did brilliant. And for me, we saw overnight people that maybe had digital as a side thing to the main thing. Suddenly, like the media guys in church became the most important people on staff. Suddenly, those that knew about social media and digital means of engagement, suddenly it all revolved around those guys. And so for us, we just saw a hunger for learning and knowledge, and also for resources, because of course there are large churches that are privileged enough to be able to have maybe people on staff that can shoot video and do different things, but that's not always the case. There's many smaller churches or people around the world that don't have those means. And so we just saw a real hunger for partnership, for working together, for using other people's resources. Nobody seemed precious overnight about, what resources they were using. And also just a real keen desire to learn. How do we do this, and how do we become effective, and what do we measure, and what does success look like in the digital space? And I think these are great questions that the church were asking. And this kind of seemed to happen overnight. And we in CV feel blessed because we had a bit of a head start in this space. And so we were able to maybe, speak into some of those things and be a blessing to others.
Yeah, we kind of feel the same way in that some of the things that we were doing, creating media content, helping churches with their physical and online worship experiences, we had, like you, had a little bit of a head start there. And so when this happened, it was, all hands like, okay, what do we do? And so I think there's ministries like us and, you guys that were there to kind of fill this void. And I think we would be right in the front lines going, we don't have all the answers. We don't know. We're trying to pivot and move and figure this thing out as well. But maybe here's some things to try. Here's some resources to use, that sort of thing. So on that regard, on the shift to more digital media, tell me how some of the churches that you guys have served reacted? What are some of the digital assets that they are most coming to you for? Things like that. How have you seen them pivot?
Yeah. So obviously, for us, most people went to a pre-recorded online presentation of a church service
Right.
and then essentially put that presentation, framed it around a community or a way of engagement. So, a way of conversation around that content. And so we saw most people, I guess, desiring video in particular. And obviously some of those things were quite unique to the church. So for example, they want to still film their pastor preaching, which, makes sense. Some churches had the opportunity to film their own worship perhaps, but also we've seen many people just going, well, actually, there's loads of great worship type things online, or like what you guys produce, and so actually we'll just leverage that, and so really it was kind of constructing an hour maybe TV show to an extent, although it's sometimes awkward to think of it that way because church is interactive and community based, but ultimately they needed to construct this and do it on a regular basis, and so that created a tension and I guess a mismatch in what skills they had on staff versus what they needed to produce that. And so we saw a lot of people coming to us for video assets mostly, to include inside of their church presentation. And that's an area that we were fairly strong in. A lot of our content isn't church focused as such. It is about, storytelling, and it is about presenting the gospel in kind of parable-like ways. And so there's always space for that inside of a church experience. But the other one I would say, and I touched on it earlier, is a desire to learn. And so this is an area where we've been trying to share what we know. So a little example of that would be, what did a church measure previously in an in-house gathering? It may have been, people in seats on a Sunday, as an example. Well, what does that actually mean? And I know for some churches we work with, they suddenly got to experience what you and I would know around, like, well, what does actually impressions actually mean on Facebook? You quickly realize that's quite a vanity number because of the nature of kind of the algorithms and stuff. But then actually, what is true engagement? And I do think it was quite confronting for some people, because they saw that, oh, wait a minute, people are dropping off at this point in the service, or people are, and what I've often said is like don't just see that as a digital phenomenon. Like actually, when people are in the room, they're a captive audience to a large degree, because they're in the room, and to walk out is kind of awkward because everyone turns around and looks at you.
Right. But I can click off easier.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that they're engaged, even if they're in the room.
That's right.
And so actually, what could we learn during this season? Because now we can measure far more. And it's just that people have got the opportunity to go and grab a coffee now.
That's right.
So what do we learn? And maybe we can, when this all passes by and we have more options than we've ever had before, and new experiences or ways to engage people, let's not waste this season by just relegating it to history, but let's learn from it and let's take that learning forward. So for us, we've been, I guess, giving away our digital video assets, but also helping people to think through some of these types of things.
That's good. You mentioned video. And I'm going to preach video until the cows come home. The stats are unbelievable. I was just doing a talk for an online summit and researching more the stats on video, where they currently are. It's astounding the amount of video we consume. We consume over 90 minutes of video a day, every person.
Yeah, wow.
Incredible stats. So does this ring true with you guys? How important is video when it comes to reaching people with the gospel?
Yeah, it does ring true. For us, Jesus told stories, and they had, people in Jesus' day had the opportunity to, I guess, be in the context and be in that situation to hear some of these stories. And for me, we're in a point in history where we have incredible opportunity to tell stories, to get the message of Jesus to more people than ever before. And although I'm a massive advocate of video, I just think that we should use anything and everything we can that engages people. And right now, as you just mentioned, video is by far the most engaging medium of communication. So why wouldn't we, that has the most incredible story, the most important message of our lifetime, of all lifetimes, pivot to use a medium where the people are and what they're engaging with? And so I just think that videos are an incredible way of engaging people. And I think that we've seen it increasingly, and trends change within that, like in terms of types of video and how long people are willing to sit and engage in something, and what works, what doesn't work.
Right.
But that's okay. That's just learning and being agile within that. But I just think it's an incredible way of telling stories, and we should use it.
To that end, and I saw you mention this in a video, is that not much new technology has been invented, which is interesting. The technology for live streaming, for recording your services, for creating video content, you name it, was already there. Some churches were taking advantage of that technology. Some had to take advantage of it very quickly, and force themselves into ministering more through digital means. So, talk to me about that. How technology really hasn't changed that much, but we're now, the church is embracing the technology more. You might say.
When I look at the, I think we were on a pathway towards many of these shifts anyway. Like, I feel that there was a transition. I'll give you an example, and I can't speak to every church, but I'll be generic in terms of my experience a little bit. Like, increasingly you would have experienced, as you go to church, you're sitting in a chair but looking at a screen. Actually the integration of video and media into our church experience was already happening, and there were some pioneers on the front end that were using video and using online means, and all of this technology actually has been around for a while. It was being used by people outside of the church to communicate all sorts of things, and I just think that COVID's been a great accelerator. We talk about disruption and all of that, but I actually think, I can't think of anything new that's been invented, apart from a vaccine, which is awesome. But I can't think of anything new that's been invented in terms of technology during this season that's enabled something that wasn't already available to us. I often see it this way, that like, actually when change happens, there's actually a few things that need to align. It needs to be timing. You need to have the right conditions. You need to have the means. And all of these things just came together where the technology was there. The need was there because suddenly we had no choice. And so it just suddenly accelerated everyone into this opportunity that exists.
Correct. If this would have happened 15 years ago, we would have been in trouble. Perhaps. Yeah. All right. So you and I are both firm believers in that we're not in the technology business. We're not. I mean, the church does not exist to have the greatest, best stuff. We're in the people business, so we're using the means that we have to reach people with the gospel. Do you want to talk at that topic for a minute?
Yeah. Look, I'm just a massive advocate that the greatest mission and the greatest opportunity and the greatest kind of passion is always one way or another linked back to people. That even organizations and churches, they're just a framework to kind of a construct for people to inhabit. And so I just think people should be at the forefront of our thinking. And so we should hold everything else kind of lightly in terms of the means and the methods and the way that we do things, but always hold on to the mission, which is people focused. I often say, like, we think of, say, for example, Facebook, and we go, isn't it amazing? Like, Mark Zuckerberg created social media, and I go like, I might have created the means for social connection in the digital space, but like the whole idea of social interaction was God's idea. Like it's not good for man to be alone. Like many of these things, you just connect them all the way back to like God's design. And for me, a community of people gathering together, reaching people, reaching the lost, going after the one, we just see it throughout the scripture. And so for me, I would just hope that that we would remember, and I believe we do, that behind every computer screen, behind every click, behind every watch is a real person with a name, with a story, with an eternity at stake.
Yes.
And we wouldn't get too caught up in the rights and wrongs of the methods. We should do everything and anything we can to get to people and get the message of Jesus to them. And if we hold that as the highest priority, I think it will begin to shift as well, even when we move forward. What is the most effective way to reach people with the gospel? What is the most effective way? And Jesus always went where the people were, and we should always, by having a people focused, be less married to our means and methods, and more just passionate about reaching people, and allow that to guide our decisions.
Good. So I have a what might seem controversial question on the surface, but it's not meant to be. This is not a political question, but some have said that this past year we've seen kind of a purging in the church, where yes, the stats have gone down, and maybe the core people in a church have been the ones to stay true, to stay involved, to whatever. Have you seen that in Australia? And you guys are global. Have you seen that this purging, or I don't want to say a falling away, but like maybe a tightening up of solid believers, more engaged? Give me your take on that. And I'm not trying to be.
No, it's a good question. I mean, we're in Australia. I don't know how much the Australian news makes it over to the US, but we're in a very privileged situation here. We haven't had any community transmission of COVID for a long time, so we're back gathering together. We're singing on a Sunday. We're worshiping together. It would look quite familiar to what it was in terms of the church here gathering. It's a little bit different in cities and so on. But what we've learned is that during COVID, there definitely was people that seemingly disengaged. And I think there's many reasons for that. But what's been encouraging is, since we have regathered, since the church has come back, I don't think it's ever been as strong. And there's never been as much hunger, and there's never been as much passion for meeting together. There's never been as much desire for community. And I think that the church has got an incredible opportunity in the area of community. And I just wonder, I think we should use all the digital means we can to reach people and to share info, all of that. Like, I'm a massive advocate of that. It's what I do. It's what I've dedicated much of my life to. But there's also an opportunity to demonstrate and model back to the world what real, true, authentic, grace-filled, loving community looks like. Because I think there's been such a separation and a feeling of isolation, and there's been so much division and so much all of this going on, that nobody quite knows how to move forward when we have multiple people that think differently, look different, all of these different things coming together in community and actually unified in their love for Jesus. And so for me, in my experience of our church and the churches I see, our churches are full. It's not all the same people that are back. There's many people that weren't in church that are now walking into church because this season has shaken them, and they need a hope for the future. And so, it's all of that. It's some people haven't returned. Some people just want to stay online. Some people come back more passionate than ever, but also new people are joining in vast numbers. And I don't know. I just feel confident that in the scripture that God's building his church, the gates of hell will not prevail, and that we just keep making opportunities for people, keep preaching the good news, keep continuing to do all that Jesus asked us to do.
Yeah.
And I just feel that we're constantly going to be, I guess, surprised by what he does and the way he does it.
Yeah. Good input. Excellent. All right. In our last couple of minutes remaining together, let's talk about where we're going. And you're touching on this, but obviously online is here to stay. Digital outreach is here to stay. Video is here to stay. All of that is here to stay. So how does the church move forward, continuing to reach using digital, but also welcome people back? How do we do both?
One of the trends that I've seen, and this is a concern for me, and maybe you've experienced the same thing, is for those churches that now have the opportunity to meet again. When I speak to media people in the church, they've gone from 1 minute being, kind of the center of activity, but more than that, they had all the resources and they had all of the focus of the church was around empowering them and equipping them to do this work. And then the ability to gather again's come back, and many churches have just gone straight back to that. And now that media guy is off to the side again, social media guy going, there's a big opportunity. So I think the churches of the future and the biggest opportunities are the churches that do all of both of these really, really well, and that see that on whether people physically gather, whether they're connected on Instagram or on Facebook or online, that they're still people, and that we have an incredible opportunity. And I would say, like for me personally, when you gather people together, which is important, and we should not forsake doing that, by and large, that's normally 90 minutes on a Sunday. And it's quite high cost for people because they leave their home and they come to a building and they sit down and they've got kids and they're busy and they're tired and all of those normal things. So when we get people together, let's really put high value into those times. Let's really focus on those things that we can't do that well online. Let's focus on the things like that actually people have missed during COVID. But then let's also see the incredible opportunity we have to engage people 24/7 outside of the four walls of the church, and actually do that really, really well as well. So let me give you a little practical example. Yeah. A sermon would normally be 20-25 minutes on a Sunday. Confession moment, I might remember one thing. I may remember two if it's been a good week. I may remember three if I've taken notes. But reality is 20-minute sermon on a Sunday, I might remember one key point. But we have the ability during the week to deliver things to people in smaller chunks that are memorable. And so there's some really creative ways we can do that. So, for example, if you film your preacher on a Sunday doing a sermon, then break that up into small 2-minute segments and deliver that through the week into people's inboxes. Deliver that through social media. Use SMS, message people, engage people. We as a church have suddenly gone, you know what? We do a vision night or like a prayer meeting. Well, can that be facilitated online? We don't always have to default to physical gathering in a building. We should and we can, but it doesn't mean we have to. And so if we have people at the forefront of our mind and we want to get information to people, or we want to engage people to pray, we shouldn't be too precious about getting everyone in the building as such. We should go, what's going to be the most conducive way to engage as many people of our community as possible and engage them in this moment? So my hope would be in the future, there's more of a hybrid model of both in-person gathering, digital, and it's all seen as viable. And that ultimately we use all the things that we can to encourage people, to disciple people, and to reach people online. And I would think that online as well is one of I still believe that it's the most incredible mission field of our generation. And so I think we'll always get people walk through the doors of our church, but also online is an incredible opportunity to be where people are, to deliver the message of hope and Jesus to people where they are, and then try and connect them into community. And so I hope it's all of that. I just hope we don't forget and miss the bigger picture here.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff, man. All right. As we leave each other, tell us where we can find you, where we can get CV resources, and how we can stay connected with you guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Carl. Everyone can visit cvglobal.co. That's our website, cvglobal.co. Of course, we're on social media, Instagram, Twitter. You can find us there. But on cvglobal.co, you'll find more about our projects, our local offices as well. So you're free to reach out to any of our offices if you'd like more information. But that's where we tell stories and get to tell more about. And we have free resources on there. So if you click on resources, you'll see not just all of our video assets that are available for free for download for you to use as a part of your online services or your church gathering, but also knowledge and what we're learning as well, and trying to give all of that away. So ultimately, we together can reach more people for Jesus.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Nathan, thank you so much for your time, man. A pleasure getting to know you. I really appreciate you taking the time today.
It's been a privilege, and thanks, Carl, and thanks for everything you guys do as well. I'm a big fan of your work, and it's just great when you find fellow Christians that are co-laborers in the kingdom, and all with the same heart. And I just love that, and it's so encouraging. So thank you, and thank you for what you do.
Hey guys, I wanted to let you know about our ready-made media library at 1230 Media. You can purchase media content either individually on our site, as well as save with a monthly, annual, or even lifetime subscription. We have a library packed with countdowns, lyric media, mini movies, motion backgrounds, sermon kits that we call Series in a Box, sermon bumpers, title graphics, and more. Our subscription is as low as $33 a month for your church and includes everything in the library, plus all the fresh content that we are adding every single week. I would love for you to test out our content by downloading free media from our site. Just go to 1230.media/free. That's 1230.media/free to get started. 1230.media/free.
The show notes for this episode are available now at makingsundayhappen.com.
Hey guys, next week on the show, I welcome my friend Matt McMorris. Matt is a church planner. He is the lead pastor at Grace Valley Church in Wisconsin. He also hosts the Everyday Christian podcast. And we're going to talk about how to lead church plants and smaller churches this year. What are affordable ways to minister to your people and still maintain excellent quality? A lot of the people that we talk to on the podcast are either at larger churches or they are experts in the field. And although Matt is fantastic, I want you to learn from a church planner. I want to talk to people in the trenches as well as the quote-unquote experts in the industry. Okay, so Matt is going to come on with me. We're going to talk about the trenches of church plant. I'm talking about a church of 30 to 50 people. Okay, so how do you minister to the people that God has entrusted you with, whether it's 30 or 300 or 30,000? All right, we're going to talk about that next week. So that is coming up with Matt. I'm really excited. Matt's a great friend. We're going to have a great conversation, and I can't wait for you to listen to it. Free articles, archives, and resources are all at 1230.media/training. That's 1230.media/training. Over 600 articles on the site, and we're honing in on 300 episodes of the podcast. Both the blog and podcast are completely free at 1230.media/training. And thank you guys so much for hanging out. Go out there and create some incredible worship experiences this weekend. I'll catch you next week.
Making Sunday Happen is a production of the ministry of 1230 Media. For show notes, archive episodes, and more free resources for your church, visit makingsundayhappen.com.